They made her carry their gear until a Green Beret spotted the sniper school ring. Then she eliminated 7 enemy combatants with 7 bullets from 1,847 yards while lying flat on her back in a drainage ditch. Staff Sergeant Rachel Martinez crouched in the mud beside the armored convoy, her shoulders aching from the weight of the communications equipment, extra ammunition, and medical supplies that the male soldiers had casually dumped into her pack 3 hours earlier. The ceramic plates in her body armor dug into her ribs as she adjusted the straps of the overloaded rucksack that now weighed close to 90 pounds. Her dark brown hair was plastered against her forehead with sweat, and her hazel eyes burned from the combination of exhaustion and suppressed anger that had been building since the mission began. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. To the 12-man squad of Army Rangers surrounding her, she was just another support soldier, a logistics specialist whose job was to carry their extra gear, maintain communications with base command, and stay out of the way when the real fighting started. What they didn't know was that Staff Sergeant Rachel Martinez was about to demonstrate why the most dangerous assumptions are the ones made about people who choose to remain invisible. The convoy had been moving through hostile territory for 8 hours, delivering critical intelligence to a forward operating base deep in enemy-controlled mountains. Intelligence reports indicated heavy insurgent activity in the region, with multiple armed groups coordinating attacks against coalition supply lines. The mission should have been routine, a protected convoy movement with minimal engagement probability. But intelligence had been wrong before, and today it would be catastrophically incorrect. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, the Ranger squad leader, checked his watch and signaled for a tactical pause. The 28-year-old officer from Dallas had been leading combat patrols for 3 years, and his instincts were telling him something was off about the terrain ahead. The mountain pass narrowed into a natural choke point, exactly the kind of geography that insurgent forces used for complex ambush operations. Webb called over to Rachel, his voice carrying the casual dismissiveness that had characterized his attitude toward her since the mission began. "Martinez, set up the radio. I need to check in with the base and confirm our route through the pass." Rachel dropped the heavy pack and began extracting the tactical communications equipment, her movements efficient despite the fatigue that was starting to affect her coordination. She had been carrying equipment loads that would have challenged soldiers 50 pounds heavier, but complaining wasn't an option. Proving herself meant enduring whatever the Rangers decided to pile onto her shoulders, both literally and figuratively. As she worked to establish communications with the forward operating base, Master Sergeant David Kane approached the convoy commander's position. Kane was a Green Beret with 15 years of special operations experience, and unlike the younger Rangers, he had learned to observe details that others missed. His weathered face and steel-gray eyes reflected the kind of tactical awareness that came from surviving situations where small observations meant the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Kane's gaze fell on Rachel as she worked with the radio equipment, and something caught his attention. On her right hand, barely visible beneath her tactical gloves, was a small ring that most soldiers would never recognize. But Kane knew exactly what it was, and his expression immediately shifted from casual observation to intense focus. The ring bore the distinctive markings of the Army's Advanced Marksmanship Unit, specifically the Sniper School graduation insignia that fewer than 200 active duty soldiers were authorized to wear. More importantly, the particular design indicated graduation not just from basic sniper training, but from the elite long-range precision course that produced fewer than 20 graduates per year. Kane had seen that ring only twice before in his 15-year career, both times on soldiers whose classified kill records were legendary within special operations circles. Kane moved closer to Rachel's position, ostensibly to check on communication status, but actually to get a better look at the ring and assess whether his initial observation was correct. As Rachel adjusted the radio's antenna, her glove shifted slightly, revealing more of the ring's details. Kane could now see the small diamond chip that indicated not just graduation from advanced sniper training, but recognition as the top graduate in tactical precision shooting. The implications hit Kane like a physical blow. The soldier that the Rangers had been treating as a pack mule was potentially one of the most lethal precision shooters in the entire United States military. The Army didn't award advanced marksmanship rings for administrative achievements or token participation. That ring represented capabilities that bordered on supernatural, shooting skills that existed at levels most soldiers couldn't comprehend. Kane's tactical mind immediately began calculating the strategic implications. If his assessment was correct, they weren't traveling with a logistics specialist who happened to carry extra gear. They were accomplished a weapon system disguised as support personnel, a precision shooter whose presence could fundamentally change the tactical dynamics of any engagement they might face. But Kane also understood why someone with those qualifications might choose to remain invisible. Female snipers faced challenges that had nothing to do with their shooting abilities and everything to do with military culture and assumptions about combat roles. Staying under the radar meant avoiding the kind of attention that could complicate deployment assignments and mission effectiveness. Lieutenant Webb's voice crackled through the radio static as Base Command confirmed intelligence updates about the route ahead. Enemy activity in the mountain pass had increased significantly over the past 4 hours. Multiple armed groups were coordinating what appeared to be a complex ambush operation designed to target exactly the kind of convoy movement they were conducting. The base commander's voice was tense as he delivered the updated tactical assessment. Be advised, we have confirmed reports of enemy sniper teams establishing overwatch positions in the high ground around the pass. Recommend extreme caution and consideration of alternate routes. Webb studied his map and calculated their options. Taking an alternate route would add 6 hours to their movement time and expose them to different but equally dangerous territory. Moving forward through the pass meant accepting the risk of a coordinated ambush by forces that had been preparing defensive positions for hours. Kane approached Webb's position, his expression serious. "Lieutenant, we need to discuss tactical options. The enemy has had time to establish prepared positions, and our current load configuration isn't optimized for potential combat operations." Webb looked at the overloaded soldiers around him, particularly Rachel, who was struggling to lift the 90-pound pack back onto her shoulders. "We're carrying essential supplies and communications equipment. Everything in these packs is mission critical." Kane nodded, but his tactical experience was telling him that their current configuration prioritized logistics over combat effectiveness. "Sir," Kane said carefully, "I recommend we reconsider our load distribution. In a combat situation, we're going to need every soldier capable of effective engagement, not just carrying equipment." Webb considered Kane's recommendation, but his focus remained on completing the mission as originally planned. The Rangers had been assigned to escort the convoy and deliver the intelligence package. Tactical modifications based on hypothetical threats could complicate their operational timeline and create additional coordination challenges. As the convoy prepared to move through the mountain pass, none of the Rangers understood that their assumptions about load distribution and combat roles were about to be tested in ways that would challenge everything they thought they knew about tactical effectiveness and hidden capabilities. The mountain pass stretched ahead of them like a gauntlet, its rocky walls and elevated positions offering perfect concealment for the enemy forces that intelligence had confirmed were waiting. Within the next 2 hours, Rachel Martinez would transform from an overloaded pack mule into the most important tactical asset the convoy possessed. The question wasn't whether they would encounter the enemy ambush that had been prepared for them. The question was whether anyone would survive long enough to witness impossible shooting from a soldier they had refused to see as anything more than a gear carrier. Staff Sergeant Rachel Martinez had learned to become invisible long before she ever picked up a sniper rifle. Growing up in the industrial neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, she was the youngest daughter of Miguel Martinez, a steel mill foreman, and Dr. Elena Martinez, a trauma surgeon at Presbyterian Hospital. Her childhood was split between 2 worlds that shaped her understanding of precision under pressure. Her father's world of heavy machinery and mathematical tolerances, and her mother's world of life-or-death decisions made in seconds with surgical instruments. Rachel's introduction to marksmanship came at age 12 when her grandfather, a Korean War veteran named Carlos Martinez, took her to the local shooting range. Carlos had been a Marine Corps scout sniper who rarely spoke about his combat experiences, but he recognized something in Rachel's temperament that reminded him of the qualities that had kept him alive through 2 tours of brutal mountain warfare. Her natural hand-eye coordination was exceptional, but more importantly, she possessed an almost supernatural ability to remain calm under pressure and maintain focus when everything around her was chaotic. By age 16, Rachel was out shooting adult competitors at regional marksmanship competitions throughout Pennsylvania and Ohio. Her high school guidance counselor, Mrs. Patricia Coleman, noticed that Rachel's academic performance in mathematics and physics was equally exceptional. She was solving trigonometry problems that challenged college-level students and demonstrating an intuitive understanding of ballistics and trajectory calculations that impressed even her advanced placement physics teacher. The Army recruiter who visited Rachel's high school during her senior year saw potential beyond just another sharpshooting teenager. Staff Sergeant Jennifer Walsh had been recruiting for 8 years and had developed an eye for identifying candidates who possessed the rare combination of technical aptitude, psychological resilience, and physical capability required for specialized military occupations. When Rachel mentioned her interest in precision shooting and her academic achievements in mathematics and physics, Walsh immediately began discussing opportunities that most high school students never heard about. Rachel's entry into the military began with advanced individual training at Fort Benning, where her shooting abilities quickly distinguished her from other trainees. Her drill instructors initially assumed her marksmanship scores were statistical anomalies or measurement errors. Nobody shot that consistently at distances that challenged soldiers with years of experience. But after weeks of observation and testing, it became clear that Rachel's shooting wasn't luck or favorable conditions. She was demonstrating capabilities that suggested natural talent enhanced by techniques that went beyond standard military doctrine. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So, if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Captain Michael Sullivan, the marksmanship training officer at Fort Benning, had been evaluating soldier shooting performance for 12 years. He had seen exceptionally talented marksmen before, but Rachel's scores indicated something different. She wasn't just hitting targets accurately, she was doing so under conditions designed to test the limits of human precision shooting capability. High winds, poor visibility, extended ranges, time pressure, and physical stress that degraded most soldiers' performance seemed to have minimal impact on her accuracy. Sullivan recommended Rachel for evaluation by the Army Marksmanship Unit, a selection process that fewer than 5% of candidates successfully completed. The evaluation took place over 6 weeks at Fort Benning's advanced training facilities, where potential sniper candidates were tested not just on shooting accuracy, but on their ability to remain concealed for extended periods, calculate complex ballistic solutions under pressure, and demonstrate the psychological resilience required for precision shooting in combat environments. The evaluation process was designed to eliminate candidates who couldn't handle the mental and physical demands of advanced marksmanship roles. Candidates spent days lying motionless in concealed positions, waiting for specific targets to appear at unknown distances and under changing environmental conditions. They were required to calculate wind speed, air density, temperature variations, and bullet trajectory corrections while experiencing sleep deprivation, physical discomfort, and time pressure that replicated combat stress. Rachel not only passed the evaluation, but achieved scores that placed her in the top 2% of all candidates who had attempted the program over the previous decade. Her ability to maintain accuracy while experiencing physical and psychological stress impressed instructors who had trained some of the military's most elite shooters. More importantly, she demonstrated technical knowledge of ballistics and environmental factors that suggested an understanding of precision shooting that went beyond instinct or natural talent. Master Sergeant Anthony Rivera, the senior instructor for the Army's Advanced Sniper Training Program, had been developing elite marksmen for 15 years. He had trained soldiers who went on to achieve legendary status within special operations communities. But Rachel's performance during the 6-week evaluation indicated capabilities that he had rarely encountered. Her understanding of external ballistics, atmospheric conditions, and precision shooting techniques seemed to incorporate knowledge that typically required years of specialized training to develop. The advanced sniper course that Rachel entered was a 4-month program that combined classroom instruction in physics and ballistics with practical training in extreme-range precision shooting. The curriculum covered topics that most soldiers never encountered: mathematical calculations for compensating atmospheric pressure variations, techniques for calculating wind speed at multiple altitudes, methods for accounting for Earth's rotation effects on bullet trajectory, and psychological training for maintaining focus during extended periods of high-stress observation and shooting. During the 3rd week of training, Rachel achieved what her instructors initially thought was a measurement error. At a range of 1,650 yards, under challenging wind conditions, she placed 5 consecutive shots within a 6-inch circle on a human-sized target. The shooting range's electronic scoring system was recalibrated twice to confirm the accuracy of the measurements. When the results were verified, Rivera realized he was training someone whose natural abilities exceeded the theoretical limits that the program was designed to develop. Rachel's final examination for the advanced sniper course took place on a mountain range in Colorado, where candidates were required to demonstrate their ability to engage targets at distances exceeding 1,800 yards under real-world environmental conditions. The test included multiple scenarios designed to replicate the kind of extreme-range precision shooting that might be required during actual combat operations. The targets were placed at ranges from 1,200 to 1,950 yards, and candidates were required to engage them successfully while accounting for wind conditions that changed throughout the shooting sequence. Rachel completed the examination with a perfect score, the first candidate in the program's history to achieve 100% accuracy on the extreme range precision test. Her performance was so exceptional that Rivera submitted a detailed report recommending her for assignment to classified special operations units that required capabilities beyond standard military sniper training. The ring that Master Sergeant Kane had spotted was more than just a graduation symbol. It represented membership in an elite community of fewer than 200 active-duty soldiers who had demonstrated precision shooting capabilities that bordered on the impossible. The small diamond chip embedded in the ring indicated recognition as the top graduate in her class, an achievement that placed her among the most lethal precision shooters in the entire United States military. But Rachel's transition from elite sniper training to her current assignment as a logistics specialist with an Army Ranger unit reflected the complex realities that female soldiers faced within military culture. Despite her exceptional qualifications and proven capabilities, opportunities for deployment in frontline combat roles remained limited by policies and attitudes that often overlooked merit in favor of traditional assumptions about gender roles in warfare. Rachel had requested assignment to special operations units where her advanced marksmanship training could be utilized effectively, but those requests had been repeatedly denied or redirected to support roles that kept her capabilities hidden from commanders who might have recognized her potential. The logistics specialist position allowed her to deploy with combat units and maintain her shooting skills through training, but it also meant accepting the frustration of being underutilized and underestimated by soldiers who had no idea what she was capable of. The decision to wear the sniper school ring was Rachel's quiet form of resistance against the invisibility that had been imposed on her by military bureaucracy and cultural assumptions. The ring was barely visible beneath her tactical gloves, but for those few people who knew what to look for, it served as proof that appearances could be deceiving and that the most dangerous assumptions were often the ones made about people who chose to remain hidden. Master Sergeant Kane's recognition of the ring represented the first time in months that anyone had seen Rachel as anything more than a support soldier, whose primary value was her ability to carry equipment and maintain communications. His 15 years of special operations experience had taught him to look beyond surface appearances and recognize capabilities that others missed. But even Kane couldn't have imagined the full extent of what Rachel had accomplished during her classified training. As the convoy prepared to enter the mountain pass where enemy forces had been confirmed to be waiting in prepared ambush positions, Rachel understood that the tactical situation was about to provide an opportunity to demonstrate why the most dangerous soldiers are often the ones that nobody saw coming. The heavy pack on her shoulders and the dismissive attitudes of the Rangers around her had become part of her camouflage, concealing capabilities that could determine whether the mission succeeded or ended in catastrophic failure. The question wasn't whether Rachel possessed the skills necessary to change the tactical balance of any engagement they might face. The question was whether circumstances would finally force her to reveal what she had been hiding beneath the facade of a support soldier who carried other people's equipment and stayed out of the way when the shooting started. The intelligence package that the convoy was transporting contained information that could reshape the entire strategic landscape of the region. 3 months of covert surveillance operations had finally identified the location and operational structure of a terrorist network that had been responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces across 4 different countries. The data included detailed maps of supply routes, communication protocols, leadership hierarchies, and, most critically, the planned locations for a series of simultaneous attacks designed to destabilize the entire regional security framework. Colonel James Patterson, the commanding officer at Forward Operating Base Blackwater, had personally overseen the development of this intelligence operation. Patterson was a 30-year Army veteran whose career had spanned conflicts from the Persian Gulf War through multiple deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. His weathered face and calculating gray eyes reflected the kind of tactical experience that came from surviving situations where strategic decisions meant the difference between mission success and catastrophic loss of life. The terrorist network, known as the Mountain Liberation Front, had been operating with sophisticated coordination that suggested training and funding from external sources. Their attacks weren't random acts of violence, but carefully planned operations designed to maximize strategic impact while minimizing their own exposure to counterattack. Intelligence analysts had been tracking their activities for 18 months, but until now, they had been unable to penetrate the network's operational security or identify their leadership structure. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. A captured communications device had yielded encryption keys that allowed intelligence specialists to intercept and decode weeks of internal network communications. The intercepted messages revealed not just the identities of key leaders, but detailed plans for upcoming operations that would target civilian infrastructure, military installations, and government facilities across the region. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell, the intelligence officer who had coordinated the analysis of the intercepted communications, understood that the information her team had developed represented a limited-time opportunity. The terrorist network changed their communication protocols every 30 days, which meant that the current intelligence would become obsolete within 2 weeks. More importantly, the intercepted messages indicated that the planned attacks were scheduled to begin in less than 10 days. The mission to transport this intelligence to Forward Operating Base Blackwater was designated Priority Alpha, the highest classification level for time-sensitive operations that could affect regional security. The convoy route had been selected to minimize exposure to known enemy positions, but intelligence reports over the past 24 hours had indicated a significant increase in hostile activity along all available transportation corridors. Captain Robert Hayes, the convoy commander, had been briefing his vehicle crews on the tactical challenges they faced during the movement to Forward Operating Base Blackwater. Hayes was a 12-year armor officer whose experience with convoy operations in hostile territory had taught him to expect complications that weren't reflected in initial mission planning. His square jaw and intense brown eyes reflected the kind of focused determination that came from leading soldiers through situations where attention to detail meant the difference between successful mission completion and devastating ambush. The convoy consisted of 4 MATV armored vehicles, each configured for different aspects of the mission requirements. The lead vehicle carried communications equipment and served as the command post for coordinating movement and security. The second vehicle transported the intelligence package and specialized personnel responsible for its security. The third vehicle carried the Ranger Squad assigned to provide security for the convoy along with additional ammunition and medical supplies. The fourth vehicle served as the rear guard and carried backup communications equipment along with supplies for extended operations. Master Sergeant Kane had been assigned to the convoy because his special operations background provided tactical expertise that conventional Army units might not possess. His 15 years with Special Forces had included multiple deployments in regions where insurgent groups used sophisticated ambush techniques designed to exploit the limitations of standard convoy security procedures. Kane's presence wasn't just additional firepower, it was insurance against tactical scenarios that required unconventional responses to complex threats. The Ranger Squad assigned to convoy security was typical of units that had been conducting these missions for months. Staff Sergeant Tommy Rodriguez was a squad leader from San Antonio whose 3 years of combat deployments had developed his understanding of convoy security operations. Rodriguez's tactical experience was solid, but it was limited to conventional approaches that worked well against predictable enemy tactics. Specialist Jake Mitchell was the squad's designated marksman, a 22-year-old from rural Montana whose hunting background had translated well to military shooting requirements. Mitchell carried an M14 enhanced battle rifle configured for precision shooting at ranges up to 800 yards, and his marksmanship scores consistently placed him among the top 5% of soldiers in his unit. Mitchell's shooting was good by conventional military standards, but his training and experience were limited to engagement ranges that conventional doctrine considered practical for infantry operations. Private First Class Danny Chen handled communications and served as the squad's radio operator. Chen was a communications specialist from Los Angeles whose technical expertise ensured reliable contact between the convoy and supporting units. His equipment included satellite communication systems that provided encrypted communication channels with forward operating base Blackwater and regional command centers. Private First Class Marcus Johnson carried the squad's light machine gun and served as the primary suppressive fire specialist. Johnson was a former college football player from Detroit whose physical strength made him ideal for handling the heavy weapon systems that provided covering fire during potential combat engagements. His tactical role was to establish fire superiority during any engagement that might develop during the convoy movement. The mountain pass that lay ahead of them represented a tactical nightmare for convoy security operations. The narrow road wound through terrain that offered multiple concealed positions for enemy forces to establish ambush sites. High ridges on both sides of the pass provided elevated positions that dominated the entire route, while rocky outcroppings and cave systems offered concealment for enemy observers and sniper teams. Intelligence reports indicated that the Mountain Liberation Front had been using this pass for staging ambush operations against coalition convoys for the past 6 months. Their tactics involved establishing multiple overwatch positions that provided crossfire coverage of the entire route. Enemy forces would allow convoys to enter the pass, then initiate coordinated attacks from multiple directions that made effective response extremely difficult. The terrain features that made the pass ideal for ambush operations also limited the tactical options available to convoy commanders. Alternative routes would add 8 to 12 hours to the movement time, which would compromise the time-sensitive nature of the intelligence package they were transporting. Forward movement through the pass meant accepting significant tactical risks, but it was the only option that allowed mission completion within the required timeline. Captain Hayes understood that his convoy was facing a tactical situation that had no ideal solutions. Intelligence reports confirmed enemy presence in the area, but the specific locations and strength of hostile forces remained unknown. His armored vehicles provided protection against small arms fire and improvised explosive devices, but they also limited his unit's mobility and made them predictable targets for well-planned ambush operations. The Rangers assigned to convoy security were trained and equipped for conventional combat operations, but their tactical doctrine was designed for situations where enemy forces could be identified and engaged using standard infantry tactics. The kind of long-range precision shooting that intelligence reports suggested the enemy might employ represented a threat that required capabilities beyond standard Ranger training and equipment. Kane's assessment of the tactical situation was more pessimistic than what was reflected in the official mission briefing. His special operations background had taught him to recognize the indicators that suggested enemy forces were prepared for specific types of engagements. The intelligence reports describing enemy sniper teams establishing overwatch positions indicated a level of tactical sophistication that suggested professional training and equipment that exceeded what most insurgent groups possessed. Rachel understood the tactical challenges better than anyone else in the convoy, but her position as a logistics specialist meant that her tactical assessments weren't solicited or considered by the convoy's leadership. Her advanced marksmanship training had included extensive education in counter-sniper operations and the tactics used by enemy precision shooters to engage coalition forces. She recognized the tactical indicators that suggested the Mountain Liberation Front had been receiving training and equipment from sources that understood modern sniper tactics and techniques. The intelligence package they were transporting would provide coalition forces with the information necessary to disrupt the Mountain Liberation Front's planned operations, but only if the convoy successfully delivered it to Forward Operating Base Blackwater. The terrorist network's communication intercepts had revealed that they were aware of increased coalition intelligence gathering activities, and they were taking aggressive measures to prevent information about their operations from reaching coalition command centers. As the convoy approached the entrance to the mountain pass, each member of the unit understood that they were entering terrain where the enemy held significant tactical advantages. What they didn't understand was that their assumptions about their own tactical capabilities were about to be tested in ways that would reveal the difference between conventional military training and the kind of precision shooting that could change the outcome of seemingly impossible tactical situations. The question wasn't whether enemy forces were waiting for them in the prepared ambush positions that intelligence had confirmed. The question was whether the convoy possessed the tactical capabilities necessary to survive an engagement against enemy forces who had been planning this operation for weeks and who understood exactly how to exploit the tactical limitations of conventional convoy security procedures. In less than 2 hours, Rachel Martinez would demonstrate that the most dangerous assumptions in warfare were the ones made about soldiers whose true capabilities remained hidden beneath the surface of routine military assignments and traditional expectations about combat roles and tactical effectiveness. The first indication that something was wrong came from the thermal imaging sensors mounted on the lead vehicle. Specialist Chen's voice crackled through the convoy's internal communication system with barely controlled tension. "Command, thermal signatures detected at multiple positions along the ridgeline. Count shows a minimum 12 heat sources, possibly more obscured by rock formations." Captain Hayes felt his stomach tighten as he processed the tactical implications of Chen's report. 12 confirmed enemy positions meant they were facing a coordinated ambush operation that had been planned with professional precision. This wasn't a random insurgent attack, it was a sophisticated trap designed specifically to target convoys using the mountain pass route. Lieutenant Webb's voice came through the radio with the controlled urgency of someone who understood that their tactical situation had just shifted from cautious movement to imminent combat. "All vehicles maintain current speed and spacing. Do not alter course or acceleration patterns. We need to appear unaware of enemy presence until we can assess their full deployment." The Rangers in the third vehicle could feel the tension building as they processed the reality of their tactical situation. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez checked his weapon systems and ammunition loads while mentally calculating the engagement ranges they would face if the convoy came under attack. The elevated positions along the ridgeline provided enemy forces with significant tactical advantages that conventional infantry tactics would struggle to overcome. Specialist Mitchell adjusted his M14 enhanced battle rifle and studied the terrain features through his weapon scope. At ranges exceeding 600 yards, his shooting accuracy would be challenged by environmental factors that his training hadn't fully prepared him to handle. The wind patterns in the mountain pass were unpredictable, and the elevated angle of potential targets would require trajectory calculations that exceeded his experience with precision shooting under combat conditions. Master Sergeant Kane's assessment of their tactical situation was grimmer than what was being communicated through official radio channels. His special operations background allowed him to recognize tactical indicators that suggested enemy forces possessed capabilities beyond standard insurgent equipment and training. The positioning of the thermal signatures indicated understanding of advanced ambush techniques that required professional military instruction to execute effectively. Kane keyed his radio and addressed Captain Hayes directly. "Sir, recommend immediate tactical assessment stop. Enemy positioning suggests capabilities that exceed intelligence estimates. Request permission to conduct detailed threat evaluation before proceeding. Hayes understood Kane's concerns, but stopping the convoy in the middle of the pass would make them even more vulnerable to coordinated attack. Their armored vehicles provided some protection against small arms fire, but stationary targets were easier to engage with precision weapons and improvised explosive devices. Forward movement offered the possibility of reaching defensive positions beyond the ambush zone, while stopping would guarantee prolonged exposure to enemy fire from multiple directions. Rachel listened to the radio communications while scanning the ridgeline through a pair of high-powered binoculars that she had retrieved from her equipment pack. Her advanced marksmanship training had included extensive education in threat assessment and tactical analysis, and what she was observing through her optics indicated enemy capabilities that none of the convoy's leadership appeared to fully comprehend. The positioning of the thermal signatures wasn't random or opportunistic. Enemy forces had established overlapping fields of fire that would create crossfire zones covering the entire length of the pass. More importantly, several of the positions were located at ranges exceeding 1,000 yards, which suggested the presence of enemy sniper teams equipped with precision weapon systems that could engage targets beyond the effective range of the convoy's defensive weapons. Rachel's analysis of the tactical situation was complicated by her position as a logistics specialist whose tactical assessments weren't requested or considered by the convoy's leadership. Her advanced training and experience in counter-sniper operations had provided her with knowledge that could potentially save lives, but military protocol and unit hierarchy meant that her insights remained unheard by the people making tactical decisions. The thermal signatures that Chen had detected represented only the enemy forces that were visible to the convoy's detection equipment. Rachel's understanding of advanced ambush tactics told her that professional insurgent operations typically included concealed positions that wouldn't be detected by conventional thermal imaging systems. The enemy forces they could see were likely a fraction of the total strength that had been deployed for this operation. Lieutenant Webb's tactical experience was solid by conventional military standards, but it was limited to engagement scenarios that involved enemy forces using standard insurgent tactics and equipment. The sophisticated positioning and coordination that the thermal signatures indicated suggested enemy capabilities that exceeded what his training had prepared him to handle. Webb understood that they were facing a serious threat, but he didn't fully comprehend the extent of the tactical disadvantages that his unit was confronting. The MATV armored vehicles that provided the convoy's primary protection were designed to withstand small arms fire and improvised explosive devices, but they offered limited defense against precision shooting from elevated positions. The thick armor plating that protected against roadside bombs also restricted the vehicle crew's ability to observe potential threats and respond to attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. Specialist Mitchell's designated marksman role made him the convoy's primary asset for engaging enemy forces at extended ranges, but his M14 enhanced battle rifle and conventional military training limited his effectiveness against targets positioned beyond 800 yards. The enemy sniper positions that Rachel had identified through her binoculars were located at ranges that would challenge even experienced precision shooters using advanced weapon systems and specialized ammunition. Private Johnson's light machine gun provided excellent suppressive fire capability against enemy forces at close to medium ranges, but it was ineffective against precision shooters operating from concealed positions at distances exceeding 1,000 yards. Johnson's tactical role was important for conventional infantry engagements, but it offered limited solutions for the kind of long-range precision threat that intelligence reports suggested they were facing. Kane's special operations experience had taught him to recognize the tactical indicators that suggested enemy forces possessed training and equipment that exceeded standard insurgent capabilities. The coordination and positioning that the thermal signatures revealed indicated professional military instruction and access to advanced weapon systems that most insurgent groups couldn't obtain or effectively employ. "Captain," Kane transmitted through the secure radio channel, "the enemy positioning indicates capabilities that our current tactical loadout isn't optimized to counter.
Recommend consideration of all available assets before engagement parameters are established. Hayes appreciated Kane's tactical expertise, but the convoy's mission parameters didn't allow for extended tactical assessment or major modifications to their movement plan. The intelligence package they were transporting had time-sensitive value that would be compromised by delays, and stopping in the middle of the pass would expose them to prolonged attack from prepared enemy positions. Rachel understood that the tactical situation was developing in ways that would soon require capabilities beyond what conventional military doctrine considered practical or achievable. Her advanced marksmanship training had included scenarios that replicated exactly the kind of long-range precision shooting that the current situation would demand, but her position as a support soldier meant that her capabilities remained invisible to the unit's leadership. The weight of the equipment pack on Rachel's shoulders had become a constant reminder of how the Rangers perceived her tactical value. 90 pounds of communications equipment, ammunition, and medical supplies represented their assessment of her contribution to the unit's combat effectiveness. What they didn't understand was that the equipment she was carrying included items that could transform her from a logistics specialist into the most lethal precision shooter in the entire convoy. Hidden beneath the radio equipment and medical supplies was a disassembled Accuracy International AWM sniper rifle, broken down into components that appeared to be standard communications and electronic equipment to casual observation. The rifle represented capabilities that exceeded what any of the Rangers understood about precision shooting at extreme ranges under combat conditions. The .338 Lapua Magnum ammunition that Rachel carried in pouches marked as radio batteries was specifically designed for long-range precision shooting against human targets at distances exceeding 1,500 yards. Each round had been hand-loaded with powder charges and bullet weights calculated for optimal ballistic performance under the specific environmental conditions they were likely to encounter in the mountain pass. As the convoy continued moving through terrain that provided perfect conditions for coordinated ambush operations, Rachel realized that the tactical situation was approaching a point where her hidden capabilities would become the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. The question wasn't whether she possessed the skills necessary to engage enemy forces at ranges that conventional military doctrine considered practical or achievable. The question was whether circumstances would force her to reveal what she had been concealing beneath the facade of a support soldier whose primary value was carrying other people's equipment. Hidden beneath the radio equipment and medical supplies was a disassembled Accuracy International AWM sniper rifle, broken down into components that appeared to be standard communications and electronic equipment to casual observation. The rifle represented capabilities that exceeded what any of the Rangers understood about precision shooting at extreme ranges under combat conditions. The .338 Lapua Magnum ammunition that Rachel carried in pouches marked as radio batteries was specifically designed for long-range precision shooting against human targets at distances exceeding 1,500 yards. Each round had been hand-loaded with powder charges and bullet weights calculated for optimal ballistic performance under the specific environmental conditions they were likely to encounter in the mountain pass. As the convoy continued moving through terrain that provided perfect conditions for coordinated ambush operations, Rachel realized that the tactical situation was approaching a point where her hidden capabilities would become the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. The question wasn't whether she possessed the skills necessary to engage enemy forces at ranges that conventional military doctrine considered impossible. The question was whether circumstances would force her to reveal what she had been concealing beneath the facade of a support soldier whose primary value was carrying other people's equipment. The thermal signatures on the ridgeline continued to multiply as Chen's detection equipment identified additional enemy positions that had been concealed or masked by terrain features. What had begun as 12 confirmed enemy forces was now approaching 20, with indications that additional positions remained undetected by the convoy surveillance systems. Kane's tactical assessment was becoming increasingly grim as he processed the implications of facing a coordinated ambush by enemy forces whose capabilities and positioning suggested professional military training and advanced equipment. His 15 years of special operations experience had taught him to recognize situations where conventional tactics would be insufficient to ensure mission success or unit survival. The question that none of the convoy's leadership was asking was whether they possessed tactical assets that hadn't been identified or utilized. In less than 30 minutes, that question would be answered in ways that would challenge everything they thought they understood about the limitations of precision shooting and the capabilities of soldiers who chose to remain hidden beneath the surface of routine military assignments. The first shots came without warning at 14:47 hours, shattering the tense silence that had built as the convoy moved deeper into the mountain pass. A .50 caliber round punched through the armored windshield of the lead vehicle, missing Captain Hayes by inches and embedding itself in the reinforced steel behind his head. The distinctive crack of high-velocity rounds echoed off the canyon walls as enemy snipers opened fire from concealed positions scattered across the ridgeline. "Contact! Contact! Snipers fire from multiple positions!" Chen's voice exploded through the radio system as he fought to maintain control of the lead vehicle. The convoy's careful formation immediately dissolved into defensive maneuvering as drivers attempted to find cover behind rock formations that offered minimal protection against precision fire from elevated positions. Lieutenant Webb's tactical training kicked in as he assessed their rapidly deteriorating situation. Enemy fire was coming from at least 6 different positions, creating overlapping fields of fire that made movement in any direction extremely dangerous. The Rangers' return fire was largely ineffective due to the range and elevation advantages that enemy positions possessed. All vehicles' emergency defensive positions establish perimeter security and identify priority targets. Webb's commands were nearly drowned out by the continuous crack of incoming rounds and the metallic impacts of bullets striking armored vehicles. Specialist Mitchell attempted to engage enemy positions with his M14 enhanced battle rifle, but his shots were falling short of targets positioned at ranges exceeding his weapon's effective capability. The elevated angle and extreme distance made accurate shooting impossible with conventional infantry weapons and standard military training. Mitchell's frustration was evident as he watched his carefully aimed shots strike rock formations hundreds of yards below enemy sniper positions. Master Sergeant Kane immediately recognized that the convoy was facing a tactical nightmare that conventional infantry tactics couldn't solve. Enemy snipers were engaging from ranges that placed them beyond the effective reach of the Rangers' weapons, while the convoy's position in the narrow pass made them sitting targets for coordinated precision fire. Kane grabbed his radio and addressed Captain Hayes with the urgency of someone who understood that their tactical situation was approaching catastrophic failure. "Sir, we need immediate counter-sniper capabilities or we're going to lose vehicles and personnel. Enemy positions are beyond the effective range of current weapon systems."
Rachel crouched behind the third vehicle, using its armored bulk to shield herself from the incoming fire, while her mind automatically calculated the tactical requirements for neutralizing the enemy threat. Her advanced marksmanship training allowed her to identify muzzle flash positions and estimate ranges with precision that exceeded what conventional soldiers could achieve under combat stress. Through her high-powered binoculars, Rachel could see enemy sniper teams positioned at distances ranging from 1,200 to 1,850 yards. Their equipment appeared to include .50 caliber rifles and advanced optics that provided them with significant advantages over the convoy's defensive capabilities. More importantly, their positioning and coordination indicated professional training that suggested these weren't typical insurgent fighters. The decision that would define the rest of Rachel's military career crystallized in the space between heartbeats as she watched Specialist Mitchell's ineffective attempts to engage targets that were beyond his weapon's capability. She understood that conventional tactics would result in the systematic destruction of the convoy and the loss of intelligence that could prevent terrorist attacks against civilian and military targets throughout the region. Rachel made a choice that violated military protocol, unit hierarchy, and every assumption that the Rangers had made about her tactical value. She keyed her radio and addressed Master Sergeant Kane directly, bypassing the normal chain of command in a way that would either save lives or end her military career. Sergeant Kane, I can neutralize the enemy sniper positions. Request permission to engage with precision assets. Kane's response reflected 15 years of special operations experience and his recognition that desperate situations required unconventional solutions. He understood that Rachel's statement represented capabilities that exceeded what her personnel file indicated, but he also recognized that they were facing tactical circumstances that demanded every possible asset. Martinez, what precision assets? Your file shows a logistics specialist, not a designated marksman. Rachel's response was delivered with the quiet confidence of someone who had been waiting months for an opportunity to demonstrate capabilities that military bureaucracy had kept hidden. Sergeant, I have equipment and training that isn't reflected in my standard file. I can engage targets at ranges exceeding 1,800 yards with precision sufficient to neutralize the threat. Lieutenant Webb's voice cut through the radio conversation with the skepticism of someone whose tactical training told him that precision shooting at extreme ranges was theoretical rather than practical. Kane's assessment was more nuanced, influenced by his observation of the sniper school ring and his understanding that special operations often involved capabilities that weren't documented in standard personnel files. His decision was based on tactical necessity rather than conventional doctrine. Webb, we're facing enemy capabilities that our current loadout can't counter. If Martinez has assets that can engage at extended range, we need to utilize them immediately. Rachel didn't wait for further authorization. She began retrieving components from her equipment pack that the Rangers had assumed were communications and electronics equipment. The Accuracy International AWM sniper rifle assembled with mechanical precision that reflected thousands of hours of practice under conditions that replicated combat stress. The transformation from logistics specialist to precision shooter took less than 90 seconds, but it represented a revelation that fundamentally changed how every member of the convoy understood tactical capabilities and hidden assets. The weapon system that emerged from Rachel's pack was more advanced than anything the Rangers had seen outside of specialized military units. The Accuracy International AWM was configured with a Schmidt & Bender 525x56 scope that provided optical clarity and magnification necessary for precision shooting at extreme ranges. The rifle's .338 Lapua Magnum chambering delivered ballistic performance that exceeded the capabilities of conventional infantry weapons by significant margins. Rachel's preparation routine was methodical and professional, reflecting training that had been conducted at levels beyond what standard military sniper programs provided. She established a stable shooting position using the vehicle's armor for support while calculating environmental factors that would affect bullet trajectory over distances exceeding 1,800 yards. Wind speed assessment required techniques that went beyond conventional meteorological training. Rachel observed dust patterns, vegetation movement, and atmospheric distortion at multiple elevations to calculate wind velocity and direction changes that would occur along the bullet's flight path. The mountain terrain created wind patterns that changed significantly between her position and the target areas. Temperature gradients between the canyon floor and the elevated enemy positions would affect air density and bullet trajectory in ways that required mathematical calculations that most soldiers never encountered. Rachel's engineering background and advanced physics training allowed her to compute atmospheric corrections that incorporated factors beyond standard military ballistics tables. The .338 Lapua Magnum ammunition that Rachel extracted from pouches marked as radio batteries represented hand-loaded rounds that had been specifically configured for optimal performance under the environmental conditions they were facing. Kane watched Rachel's preparation with growing recognition that her capabilities exceeded anything he had encountered during his special operations career. The precision and professionalism of her equipment configuration indicated training that belonged to programs he had heard about but never directly observed. "Martinez, what's your actual training background?" Kane asked through the tactical radio channel. Rachel's response was delivered while she continued making microscopic adjustments to her scope settings based on environmental calculations that incorporated factors most snipers never considered. Advanced Marksmanship Unit, Extreme Range Precision Course, classified training programs that aren't documented in standard personnel files.
Lieutenant Webb's understanding of their tactical situation was undergoing fundamental revision as he processed the implications of having an elite precision shooter disguised as a support soldier. His conventional military experience provided no framework for understanding how someone with advanced sniper training had been assigned to a logistics position. The enemy sniper fire continued to impact around their position with accuracy that indicated professional training and advanced equipment. The convoy's defensive position was becoming increasingly untenable as enemy forces adjusted their fire to exploit weak points in the vehicle's armor protection. Rachel completed her weapon preparation and began calculating engagement priorities based on threat assessment and tactical effectiveness. Her training had included scenarios that replicated exactly the kind of multiple target engagement that the current situation demanded, but executing precision shots under actual combat conditions would test capabilities that had only been demonstrated on training ranges. The first target Rachel selected was an enemy sniper positioned at 1,847 yards on a rocky outcropping that provided commanding view of the convoy's position. The extreme range and elevated angle represented technical challenges that would require precision shooting at the theoretical limits of equipment and human capability. Rachel's breathing slowed to the controlled rhythm that eliminated physiological factors that could affect shooting accuracy. Her heart rate dropped to levels that minimized movement and ensured the perfect stillness necessary for extreme range precision shooting. This was the psychological and physiological state that separated elite shooters from conventional marksmen. Through her advanced optics, Rachel could see the enemy sniper clearly enough to identify equipment and assess his tactical positioning. He was using a .50 caliber rifle with advanced optics positioned behind rock formations that provided excellent concealment and protection from return fire. His tactical position was nearly perfect for long-range engagement, but it also made him stationary and predictable for counter-sniper operations. The mathematical calculations that Rachel performed in the seconds before engaging included factors that conventional military training didn't address. Coriolis effect at extreme range, gyroscopic drift from bullet spin, atmospheric pressure variations at different altitudes, and temperature gradients that would affect air density along the bullet's flight path. Rachel's finger found the trigger with the gentle, consistent pressure that had been perfected through thousands of hours of advanced training. The moment before firing represented the convergence of mathematics, physics, training, and instinct that defined the difference between theoretical capability and practical application under combat conditions.
The question wasn't whether Rachel possessed the technical knowledge and equipment necessary to engage enemy forces at ranges that conventional doctrine considered impossible. The question was whether her hidden capabilities could be executed under combat stress against professional enemy snipers who possessed significant tactical advantages in positioning, elevation, and initiative. Rachel's first shot fired at 14:52 hours with the thunderous report of a .338 Lapua Magnum round leaving the muzzle at 2,900 feet per second. The massive bullet began its 2.3-second journey across 1,847 yards of mountain terrain, following a trajectory that compensated for 380 inches of bullet drop, 22 inches of wind drift, and the subtle effects of Coriolis force that influenced projectile flight at extreme range. Through her Schmidt and Bender scope, Rachel tracked the bullet's impact with professional detachment. The enemy sniper's head snapped back as the 250-grain projectile struck with devastating precision, eliminating the threat and silencing the .50 caliber rifle that had been systematically targeting the convoy's vehicles. "Holy shit," whispered Specialist Mitchell, his voice filled with awe and disbelief. "She actually made that shot." Master Sergeant Kane watched through his binoculars as the enemy position went dark, confirming what his tactical experience told him was impossible. Precision shooting at ranges approaching 1,900 yards required capabilities that existed at the theoretical limits of human and equipment performance. Rachel had just demonstrated that those limits were achievable under actual combat conditions. Rachel was already acquiring her second target before the other Rangers could process what they had witnessed. Her training had emphasized the importance of rapid follow-up engagements when facing multiple threats, and the tactical situation demanded elimination of enemy snipers before they could adjust their positions or coordinate counterfire. The second enemy sniper was positioned at 1,623 yards on a narrow ledge that provided excellent concealment but limited mobility. Rachel's scope revealed details that would have been invisible to conventional optical equipment. The sniper's precise position behind rock formations, his rifle configuration, and the timing patterns of his engagement cycle. Environmental calculations for the second shot required adjustments based on the different elevation and wind patterns affecting the bullet's trajectory. The mountain terrain created atmospheric conditions that varied significantly across the engagement area, demanding real-time compensation that incorporated meteorological factors beyond standard military training. Rachel's second shot fired with mechanical precision, the rifle's recoil absorbed by her stable shooting position and advanced technique. The bullet's flight path carried it through wind currents that would have defeated conventional shooting attempts, but Rachel's calculations had anticipated atmospheric variations with mathematical accuracy that bordered on supernatural. The impact was instantaneous and decisive. The enemy sniper's position erupted in a spray of rock fragments as the high-velocity projectile found its target with surgical precision. The threat from the second position was eliminated before the sniper could complete his next shot sequence. Lieutenant Webb's tactical assessment was undergoing fundamental revision as he processed the implications of witnessing impossible shooting become routine execution. His understanding of precision marksmanship had been limited to conventional military doctrine that considered 800-yard shots challenging and 1,000-yard shots exceptional. Rachel was engaging targets at ranges that exceeded his comprehension of practical shooting capabilities. "Martinez, how many more targets can you identify?" Webb asked through the tactical radio, his voice reflecting a mixture of professional admiration and tactical urgency. Rachel's response was delivered while she continued scanning the ridgeline. 5 confirmed enemy positions remaining, ranges from 1,234 to 1,891 yards, all within engagement parameters. Kane's special operations experience provided context for understanding Rachel's capabilities, but even his extensive background hadn't prepared him for witnessing precision shooting that defied conventional limitations. The elimination of 2 enemy snipers at extreme range had fundamentally changed the tactical balance of the engagement. The third enemy position required the most challenging shot Rachel had attempted during actual combat operations. The target was positioned at 1,891 yards behind rock formations that provided minimal exposure, requiring precision that exceeded even advanced military training standards. The shooting angle involved elevation changes that complicated trajectory calculations beyond what most snipers ever encountered. Rachel's mathematical approach to extreme-range shooting incorporated variables that conventional ballistics tables didn't address. Air density variations at different altitudes, temperature gradients that affect atmospheric conditions along the bullet's flight path, and wind speed changes that occurred at multiple elevations between her position and the target area. The preparation for her third shot demonstrated techniques that belonged to classified training programs designed to develop capabilities beyond standard military requirements. Rachel's breathing control eliminated physiological factors that could introduce microscopic movements affecting accuracy. Her trigger technique incorporated pressure applications that had been perfected through thousands of hours of specialized training. The .338 Lapua Magnum round that Rachel fired represented hand-loaded ammunition that had been specifically configured for optimal performance under the environmental conditions they were facing. The powder charge and bullet weight had been calculated to deliver maximum accuracy at ranges exceeding 1,800 yards, while compensating for atmospheric factors that affect projectile flight. The bullet's 2.4-second flight time allowed Rachel to observe its trajectory through her advanced optics before impact.
The projectile followed a precise path that incorporated all environmental corrections, striking the target with accuracy that eliminated the threat while confirming capabilities that existed at the theoretical limits of precision shooting. Captain Hayes watched the systematic elimination of enemy sniper positions with growing recognition that his convoy possessed tactical assets that weren't reflected in official personnel files or unit capabilities assessments. Rachel's shooting was changing the fundamental dynamics of an engagement that had appeared to favor enemy forces with significant tactical advantages. The fourth enemy sniper position was located at 1,445 yards on a steep slope that provided excellent concealment but predictable positioning. Rachel's tactical analysis indicated that this target represented a high-priority threat due to his ability to engage the convoy's vehicles with precise fire that could penetrate armor at specific vulnerable points. Rachel's fourth shot demonstrated shooting techniques that incorporated lessons learned from previous engagements during the same tactical sequence. Environmental conditions had remained relatively stable, but subtle changes in wind patterns required real-time adjustments to compensation calculations that most shooters couldn't execute under combat stress. The elimination of the fourth target was executed with precision that confirmed Rachel's capabilities operated consistently at levels that conventional military doctrine considered impossible. The enemy sniper's position went silent immediately, removing another source of coordinated fire that had been systematically targeting the convoy's defensive positions. Private Johnson's light machine gun had been largely ineffective against enemy positions at extreme range, but Rachel's elimination of sniper threats was allowing conventional weapons to engage targets that had moved into closer positions. The tactical dynamics of the engagement were shifting in favor of the convoy as enemy forces lost their long-range precision capabilities. The fifth enemy position presented tactical challenges that required shooting techniques beyond what standard sniper training addressed. The target was positioned at 1,678 yards behind cover that provided only minimal exposure during specific movement patterns. Rachel's engagement would require predictive shooting that anticipated target movement with mathematical precision. Rachel's observation of the target revealed timing patterns that indicated professional military training. The enemy sniper was using movement techniques designed to minimize exposure while maintaining engagement capability, but his positioning and timing created predictable opportunities for counter-sniper operations.
The predictive shot that Rachel calculated required leading the target by precisely the amount necessary to compensate for movement speed, direction, and the bullet's flight time. The mathematical complexity of the calculation exceeded what most military training programs addressed, but Rachel's advanced education and specialized instruction provided the knowledge necessary for successful execution. Rachel's fifth shot represented the convergence of mathematical precision, environmental compensation, and predictive calculation that defined the difference between theoretical capability and practical application under combat conditions. The bullet's trajectory intercepted the target's movement pattern with accuracy that eliminated the threat while demonstrating shooting skills that bordered on supernatural. The sixth enemy sniper was positioned at 1,567 yards in a location that provided excellent tactical advantages but also created opportunities for precision engagement. Rachel's scope revealed equipment and positioning that indicated professional training and advanced weapon systems that exceeded standard insurgent capabilities. Rachel's sixth shot was executed with the mechanical precision that characterized elite-level precision shooting under combat stress. Environmental factors had remained relatively stable throughout the engagement sequence, allowing her to maintain compensation calculations that ensured consistent accuracy across multiple targets at varying ranges and elevations. The systematic elimination of enemy sniper positions had created tactical conditions that allowed the convoy's conventional weapons to engage remaining threats effectively. The Rangers' return fire was becoming increasingly accurate as enemy forces were forced into positions that exposed them to suppressive fire from machine guns and assault rifles. The seventh and final enemy sniper position was located at 1,234 yards, the closest of all the targets Rachel had engaged. The reduced range simplified trajectory calculations but required rapid engagement before the target could relocate to more advantageous positioning.
Rachel's seventh shot was fired with the confidence that came from 6 consecutive successful eliminations at extreme range. The impact of Rachel's seventh shot marked the end of coordinated enemy sniper fire against the convoy. 7 enemy positions had been eliminated with 7 bullets, each fired at ranges that exceeded conventional military doctrine by significant margins. The tactical situation had been transformed from desperate defense to tactical superiority through precision shooting that defied the laws of probability and conventional limitations. Master Sergeant Kane's tactical assessment confirmed what the thermal imaging systems were indicating. Enemy resistance had collapsed following the elimination of their long-range precision capabilities. The remaining hostile forces were withdrawing from positions that had become untenable without sniper support. All positions, enemy withdrawal confirmed, Kane reported through the tactical radio. The sniper threat has been neutralized. Convoy is clear to continue movement to primary objective. Lieutenant Webb's voice reflected professional amazement as he processed the tactical transformation that Rachel's shooting had accomplished. "Martinez, that was the most incredible marksmanship demonstration I've ever witnessed. 7 targets, 7 hits, at ranges that shouldn't be possible." Rachel's response was delivered while she secured her weapon system and prepared for continued movement toward Forward Operating Base Blackwater. "Just applied mathematics and physics, sir. Enemy positions provided clear lines of sight once environmental factors were properly calculated." The convoy resumed movement through the mountain pass with tactical confidence that reflected their new understanding of the precision capabilities that had been hidden within their ranks. The intelligence package they were transporting would reach its destination, and the terrorist attacks that the Mountain Liberation Front had been planning would be prevented through information that could now be delivered safely to coalition command centers. The convoy reached Forward Operating Base Blackwater at 18:23 hours, rolling through the fortified gates with the quiet confidence of soldiers who had witnessed the impossible become routine. The intelligence package that could prevent coordinated terrorist attacks across 4 countries had been delivered successfully, but the real cargo that Captain Hayes was transporting was the knowledge that assumptions about combat capabilities and hidden assets could be catastrophically wrong. Colonel Patterson was waiting at the convoy's arrival point, his weathered face reflecting the tension that came from coordinating time-sensitive operations where strategic intelligence had tactical deadlines. The Mountain Liberation Front's planned attacks were scheduled to begin in 8 days, and the intercepted communications that the convoy had delivered would provide coalition forces with the operational intelligence necessary to prevent civilian casualties on a massive scale. Captain Hayes was waiting at the convoy's arrival point, his weathered face reflecting the tension that came from coordinating time-sensitive operations where strategic intelligence had tactical deadlines. The Mountain Liberation Front's planned attacks were scheduled to begin in 8 days, and the intercepted communications that the convoy had delivered would provide coalition forces with the operational intelligence necessary to prevent civilian casualties on a massive scale. "Captain Hayes, what's your assessment of the intelligence package delivery?" Patterson asked as the convoy vehicles were secured in the base's protected motor pool area. Hayes's response reflected a fundamental shift in his understanding of tactical capabilities and personnel assessment. "Sir, mission accomplished with 0 casualties and complete neutralization of enemy resistance. However, I need to brief you on tactical assets that aren't reflected in our standard personnel files." Patterson's experience with classified operations had taught him to recognize when routine missions produced intelligence that exceeded official documentation. His expression shifted to focused attention as he processed the implications of Hayes's statement. "Elaborate on undocumented tactical assets, Captain." Hayes glanced toward Rachel, who was securing her equipment with the same methodical precision that had characterized her shooting performance. "Sir, Staff Sergeant Martinez demonstrated precision marksmanship capabilities that fundamentally changed the tactical dynamics of a coordinated enemy ambush. 7 enemy snipers eliminated at ranges from 1,234 to 1,891 yards, perfect accuracy under combat conditions." Patterson's tactical experience provided context for understanding the strategic significance of precision shooting at extreme ranges. Enemy sniper teams had been one of the most persistent threats facing coalition convoys, and the ability to neutralize those threats at distances exceeding conventional capabilities represented a tactical advantage that could reshape operational planning. Master Sergeant Kane approached the briefing area with documentation that would support the tactical assessment Hayes was providing. Kane's 15 years of special operations experience had taught him to recognize capabilities that belonged to classified programs, and Rachel's performance had confirmed his suspicions about her actual training background. "Colonel, I observed the entire engagement sequence," Kane reported. "Staff Sergeant Martinez's shooting exceeded anything I've witnessed during special operations deployments. Her equipment, technique, and tactical knowledge indicate training programs that aren't documented in standard personnel files." Patterson understood that specialized training programs often produced capabilities that remained classified for operational security reasons. Rachel's presence in a logistics position suggested deliberate concealment of advanced marksmanship training, possibly for deployment flexibility or tactical surprise. "Sergeant Martinez, report to my office for detailed debriefing in 30 minutes, Patterson ordered. "I want complete documentation of your training background, equipment specifications, and assessment of how these capabilities can be integrated into future operational planning." Rachel's response reflected the professional bearing of someone who had been waiting for official recognition of abilities that military bureaucracy had kept hidden. "Yes, sir. I'll provide complete documentation of advanced marksmanship training and recommendations for tactical integration." Lieutenant Webb's understanding of personnel assessment and capability evaluation was undergoing fundamental revision as he processed the implications of Rachel's performance. His tactical training had emphasized the importance of accurate personnel evaluation, but his assumptions about logistics specialists and support soldiers had been completely wrong. "Sir," Webb addressed Colonel Patterson, "recommend immediate review of personnel assignment protocols. Staff Sergeant Martinez's actual capabilities were completely unknown to unit leadership, which could have resulted in tactical failure if circumstances hadn't forced her to reveal advanced training." Patterson nodded, recognizing that Webb's recommendation addressed systemic issues that affected operational effectiveness beyond the current mission. Hidden capabilities could provide tactical advantages, but they could also represent missed opportunities if commanders weren't aware of assets available within their units.
The intelligence package that Rachel's shooting had protected was immediately transferred to the base's analysis center, where specialist teams began processing the intercepted communications that revealed the Mountain Liberation Front's operational structure. The terrorist network's planned attacks included targets that would have resulted in hundreds of civilian casualties and significant disruption to regional security. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell, the base intelligence officer, coordinated the analysis effort that would transform the intercepted communications into actionable intelligence for preventing the planned terrorist operations. Her team included signals intelligence specialists, behavioral analysts, and tactical planning experts who understood how to convert enemy communications into operational countermeasures. The intelligence package contains detailed information about coordinated attacks scheduled for 6 different locations, Mitchell briefed Colonel Patterson during the initial assessment. Target locations include civilian infrastructure, military installations, and government facilities. Timing indicates simultaneous execution designed to maximize strategic impact. Patterson understood that the successful delivery of this intelligence would allow coalition forces to prevent terrorist attacks that could have destabilized the entire regional security framework. The strategic value of the information that Rachel's shooting had protected exceeded the tactical significance of any single convoy operation. 3 weeks later, coalition forces executed coordinated raids that dismantled the Mountain Liberation Front's operational network before their planned attacks could be initiated. 63 terrorist operatives were captured, including the organization's senior leadership structure. Weapons caches, communication equipment, and explosive materials sufficient for multiple large-scale attacks were seized during operations that prevented civilian casualties on a massive scale. The official after-action reports credited intelligence gathering operations and tactical coordination for the successful prevention of the terrorist attacks. Rachel's precision shooting that had protected the intelligence package was classified at levels that prevented public acknowledgement.
But military personnel with appropriate clearances understood that one soldier's hidden capabilities had prevented a regional security catastrophe. Rachel's personnel file was updated to reflect her actual training background and capabilities, but the specific details of her advanced marksmanship training remained classified for operational security reasons. Her assignment status was changed from logistics specialist to special operations liaison, providing her with opportunities to utilize her precision shooting skills in roles that matched her actual qualifications. Captain Hayes was promoted to major and assigned to develop training programs that address the integration of specialized capabilities within conventional military units. His experience with Rachel's hidden assets had taught him that assumptions about personnel capabilities could compromise tactical effectiveness, and his new assignment would help prevent similar oversights in future operations. Master Sergeant Kane was selected for assignment to Special Operations Command, where his ability to recognize hidden capabilities and tactical assets would be utilized in personnel assessment and mission planning roles. His observation of Rachel's sniper school ring had initiated the sequence of events that prevented catastrophic tactical failure during the convoy operation. Lieutenant Webb completed advanced tactical training that emphasized personnel assessment and capability evaluation. His experience with Rachel's shooting had taught him that conventional assumptions about support soldiers and logistics specialists could be fundamentally wrong, and his future leadership assignments would reflect improved understanding of hidden assets within military units. Master Sergeant Kane was selected for assignment to Special Operations Command, where his ability to recognize hidden capabilities and tactical assets would be utilized in personnel assessment and mission planning roles. His observation of Rachel's sniper school ring had initiated the sequence of events that prevented catastrophic tactical failure during the convoy operation. Lieutenant Webb completed advanced tactical training that emphasized personnel assessment and capability evaluation. His experience with Rachel's shooting had taught him that conventional assumptions about support soldiers and logistics specialists could be fundamentally wrong, and his future leadership assignments would reflect improved understanding of hidden assets within military units. The Rangers who had made Rachel carry their equipment were reassigned to different units following completion of their deployment cycle. Their experience with witnessing impossible precision shooting had changed their understanding of capability assessment and tactical assumptions, but the classified nature of Rachel's performance meant that their knowledge couldn't be shared outside of official channels. 6 months after the convoy operation, Rachel was deployed to a classified Special Operations Unit, where her advanced marksmanship capabilities were utilized in roles that matched her actual training and qualifications. Her new assignments included counter-sniper operations, high-value target elimination, and precision shooting missions that required capabilities at the theoretical limits of human and equipment performance. The Accuracy International AWM rifle system that Rachel had concealed within her logistics equipment became the foundation for developing advanced precision shooting capabilities within special operations units. Her techniques for extreme-range shooting under combat conditions were incorporated into training programs that produced the next generation of elite military marksmen. Rachel's call sign within special operations units became Phantom, reflecting her ability to remain invisible until tactical circumstances required the revelation of capabilities that exceeded conventional limitations. Her precision shooting performance during the convoy operation became legendary within military communities that possessed clearance to know the truth about impossible shots that had prevented strategic catastrophe. Years later, when military historians analyzed the factors that prevented the Mountain Liberation Front's coordinated terrorist attacks, they identified intelligence gathering operations and tactical coordination as the decisive elements. The official record would never document that one soldier's hidden capabilities and 7 impossible shots had protected the information that saved hundreds of civilian lives. The Green Beret who had spotted the sniper school ring continued to serve in special operations roles where his ability to recognize hidden capabilities and tactical assets became legendary among personnel who understood the importance of looking beyond surface appearances. Kane's observation skills had initiated a sequence of events that demonstrated why the most dangerous assumptions in warfare were the ones made about soldiers whose true capabilities remained concealed. Rachel Martinez had proven that sometimes the most lethal weapons were the ones that nobody saw coming. Her transformation from equipment carrier to precision shooter had demonstrated that military effectiveness often depends on recognizing capabilities that exist beneath the surface of routine assignments and conventional expectations. The mountain pass where Rachel eliminated 7 enemy snipers with 7 bullets became a case study in tactical flexibility and hidden asset utilization. Future convoy operations in the region proceeded with the understanding that threats could be neutralized by capabilities that exceed conventional doctrine, but only if commanders possess the wisdom to recognize and utilize assets that might be concealed within their ranks. The most important lesson from Rachel's performance wasn't about precision shooting or advanced marksmanship training. It was about the danger of assumptions and the strategic value of soldiers who chose to remain invisible until circumstances demanded the revelation of capabilities that could change the outcome of seemingly impossible tactical situations. The ripple effects of Rachel's performance extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation. Within classified military circles, her shooting sequence became known as the Phantom 7, 7 impossible shots that had redefined understanding of precision marksmanship capabilities under actual combat conditions. Advanced training facilities began incorporating scenarios based on Rachel's techniques, but replicating her performance proved impossible for even the most elite candidates. Dr. William Chen, a ballistics engineer at Aberdeen Proving Ground, was tasked with analyzing the mathematical and physical principles that had made Rachel's shooting sequence possible. His research team spent months studying environmental data, trajectory calculations, and equipment specifications to understand how precision shooting at such extreme ranges could be consistently accurate under combat stress. The mathematical complexity of compensating for atmospheric variables at ranges exceeding 1,800 yards requires computational abilities that exceed standard military training. Staff Sergeant Martinez demonstrated integration of physics, meteorology, and ballistics that suggest educational background beyond conventional military instruction. Chen's analysis revealed that Rachel's shooting had incorporated compensation techniques for environmental factors that most military training programs didn't address. Her ability to calculate Coriolis effects, gyroscopic drift, atmospheric pressure variations, and temperature gradients in real time during combat represented capabilities that belonged to advanced academic research rather than practical military application.
The equipment specifications for Rachel's Accuracy International AWM rifle system became classified material that influenced development of next-generation precision shooting platforms. Her modifications to standard components had created performance characteristics that exceeded manufacturer specifications, suggesting understanding of weapon systems engineering that went beyond operator-level training. Major General Patricia Williams, commanding officer of the Army Marksmanship Unit, initiated a comprehensive review of personnel assignment protocols following Rachel's performance. Her investigation revealed systematic patterns where soldiers with advanced capabilities were assigned to positions that didn't utilize their specialized training effectively. We have identified at least 12 additional cases where personnel with classified training backgrounds have been assigned to conventional roles that don't reflect their actual qualifications, Williams reported to Pentagon leadership. This represents significant underutilization of tactical assets that could affect operational effectiveness across multiple theaters. Williams' review led to the establishment of the Special Capabilities Assessment Program, designed to identify and properly utilize soldiers whose training exceeded what was reflected in standard personnel files. The program became a model for maximizing tactical effectiveness through better personnel management and capability recognition. Rachel's influence on military training doctrine extended to psychological preparation for extreme-range precision shooting. Her ability to maintain accuracy under combat stress had demonstrated techniques for managing physiological responses that conventional training didn't address effectively. Dr. Sarah Blackwood, a military psychologist specializing in performance under stress, studied Rachel's preparation routines and mental techniques to understand how elite shooters maintained precision during life-or-death situations. Her research became foundational for developing psychological training programs that improved performance across multiple military specialties. Staff Sergeant Martinez demonstrated integration of physical technique and psychological control that represents the theoretical maximum of human performance under extreme stress. Blackwood concluded, her methods provide a template for developing similar capabilities in other personnel who possess the necessary foundational skills. The tactical implications of Rachel's performance influenced operational planning for convoy security throughout the region. Intelligence officers began incorporating assumptions about potential precision shooting capabilities when developing threat assessments and defensive protocols. Lieutenant Colonel James Morrison, responsible for convoy security operations, redesigned tactical procedures based on lessons learned from Rachel's engagement sequence. His new protocols emphasized identification and utilization of specialized capabilities within standard military units. Previous doctrine assumed that convoy security capabilities were limited to equipment and training reflected in unit tables of organization. Morrison explained during training briefings. Staff Sergeant Martinez's performance demonstrated that actual capabilities may exceed documented specifications by significant margins. Morrison's revised protocols became standard throughout theater operations, leading to improved survival rates for convoy missions and more effective utilization of personnel assets during tactical operations. The technological advancements stimulated by analysis of Rachel's equipment led to development of improved precision shooting systems that incorporated lessons learned from her modifications and techniques. Defense contractors began research programs designed to replicate the performance characteristics that she had achieved through custom equipment configuration. Remington Arms Company received a classified contract to develop rifle systems that incorporated design principles derived from Rachel's weapon modifications. The project aimed to make extreme-range precision shooting capabilities available to broader military populations through improved equipment rather than requiring exceptional individual capabilities. General Robert Hayes, Army Chief of Staff, used Rachel's performance as evidence supporting increased funding for advanced marksmanship training programs. His testimony before congressional defense committees emphasized the strategic value of precision shooting capabilities that exceeded conventional limitations. One soldier's exceptional capabilities prevented terrorist attacks that could have resulted in hundreds of civilian casualties, Hayes testified. Investment in developing similar capabilities across our military forces represents both tactical advantage and strategic deterrence that justifies significant resource allocation. Hayes's advocacy led to congressional approval of funding for expanded advanced marksmanship training facilities and equipment procurement that would benefit multiple military branches. The international implications of Rachel's performance became apparent when Allied military forces requested access to training information and equipment specifications that had made her shooting sequence possible. NATO partners began discussions about standardizing extreme-range precision shooting capabilities across alliance forces. British Special Air Service, Canadian Joint Task Force 2, and Australian Special Operations Command initiated exchange programs designed to incorporate Rachel's techniques into their advanced training curricula. The international cooperation represented recognition that precision shooting capabilities at extreme ranges provided strategic advantages that transcended national military boundaries. 5 years after the convoy operation, Rachel's shooting sequence remained the standard against which extreme-range precision marksmanship was measured. Military training facilities worldwide included scenarios based on her performance, though achieving similar results proved possible only for the most exceptional candidates with natural abilities that approached her level. The legacy of the Phantom 7 extended beyond military circles into civilian competitive shooting communities, where knowledge of Rachel's achievement inspired development of new techniques and equipment configurations designed to push the boundaries of precision shooting capabilities. Rachel herself continued serving in classified roles where her exceptional abilities were utilized appropriately, but the full extent of her subsequent achievements remained protected by operational security requirements that prevented public acknowledgement of capabilities that could compromise ongoing missions.
The Green Beret who had spotted the sniper school ring became a legendary figure within special operations communities not for his own tactical achievements, but for his ability to recognize capabilities that others missed. Kane's observation skills were credited with initiating the sequence of events that had prevented strategic catastrophe through one moment of tactical awareness. The Rangers who had underestimated Rachel carried the knowledge of their assumptions for the rest of their military careers. Their experience became cautionary tales told in leadership development programs about the danger of judging capabilities based on surface appearances and conventional expectations. Specialist Mitchell, the squad's former designated marksman, underwent complete retraining in advanced marksmanship techniques following his deployment. His experience witnessing Rachel's shooting had humbled him regarding his own capabilities and inspired pursuit of training that pushed beyond conventional limitations. Mitchell eventually qualified for Ranger Sniper School, where instructors used Rachel's performance as an example of theoretical maximum capability. "I thought I was a good shooter until I watched someone redefine what shooting could be," Mitchell later reflected during advanced training interviews. "Seeing the impossible become routine changed my understanding of what human capability could achieve with proper training and equipment." Private Johnson transitioned from light machine gunner to pursuing specialized training and precision shooting support roles. His experience carrying equipment that he later learned belonged to one of the military's most elite shooters had taught him that assumptions about personnel capabilities could be catastrophically wrong. Johnson's new specialty involved providing tactical support for extreme-range precision shooting operations.
Staff Sergeant Rodriguez underwent leadership development training that emphasized personnel assessment and capability recognition. His experience with Rachel's hidden abilities became a cornerstone of his approach to evaluating soldiers under his command. Rodriguez developed training protocols that specifically addressed identification of specialized capabilities within conventional military units. The convoy operation became required study material at the Army War College, where senior officers analyzed the tactical, strategic, and leadership lessons from Rachel's performance. Case study discussions focused on personnel management, capability recognition, and the integration of specialized assets within conventional military formations. Colonel David Thompson, a War College instructor, used Rachel's story to illustrate principles of adaptive leadership and tactical flexibility. The most dangerous enemy in warfare is often our own assumptions about limitations and capabilities, Thompson caught. Staff Sergeant Martinez's performance demonstrates that victory sometimes depends on recognizing assets that exist beyond conventional doctrine. The psychological impact of Rachel's achievement extended throughout military communities, where stories of the Phantom 7 inspired soldiers to pursue training beyond minimum requirements. Recruitment for advanced marksmanship programs increased significantly as personnel sought to develop capabilities that could make similar differences during critical situations. Master Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez, a recruiting specialist for special operations, documented increased interest in precision shooting specialties following circulation of classified information about Rachel's performance. Personnel who learn about extreme-range precision shooting capabilities often express interest in pursuing similar training, even when they understand the difficulty and selection standards involved. The equipment procurement decisions influenced by Rachel's weapon modifications led to development of next-generation precision shooting systems that incorporated lessons learned from her custom configurations. Defense contractors invested millions in research programs designed to replicate performance characteristics that she had achieved through individual expertise and equipment modification. Accuracy International received contracts to develop rifle systems that incorporated design principles derived from Rachel's modifications to their AWM platform. The company's engineering team studied her equipment configuration to understand how standard components could be optimized for performance beyond manufacturer specifications. Staff Sergeant Martinez's modifications demonstrated possibilities for improving our existing designs that our own engineering team hadn't considered, reported Dr. Michael Stevens, Accuracy International's chief design engineer. Her practical application of ballistics principles provided insights that will influence our next generation of precision rifle development.
Schmidt and Bender, the manufacturer of Rachel's optical system, initiated research programs to understand how their scopes had been utilized for precision shooting beyond their published specifications. The company's optical engineers studied environmental factors and calculation techniques that Rachel had employed to maximize scope performance under extreme conditions. The ammunition manufacturer that produced Rachel's .338 Lapua Magnum rounds began development of specialized loads designed for extreme-range precision shooting. Her hand-loading techniques had demonstrated performance improvements that commercial ammunition could incorporate through advanced manufacturing processes. Federal Premium Ammunition hired Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a ballistics engineer, to lead development of precision ammunition specifically designed for extreme-range shooting applications. Walsh's team studied powder charges, bullet weights, and construction techniques that Rachel had used to optimize projectile performance at distances exceeding 1,800 yards. The precision shooting community has been limited by ammunition that wasn't specifically designed for extreme-range applications, Walsh explained. Staff Sergeant Martinez's achievements demonstrate the performance possibilities when ammunition is optimized for specific environmental conditions and range requirements. The training methodology development, inspired by Rachel's techniques, led to establishment of new instruction programs that emphasized integration of mathematics, physics, and practical shooting skills. Military training facilities began offering courses that combined academic instruction with practical application in ways that conventional marksmanship training hadn't addressed. The Precision Shooting Excellence Center, established at Fort Benning, became the primary facility for developing advanced marksmanship capabilities based on principles derived from Rachel's performance. The center's curriculum included mathematics, physics, meteorology, and psychology in addition to practical shooting instruction. Major Sarah Chen, the center's commanding officer, developed training standards that incorporated lessons learned from analyzing Rachel's techniques. Previous marksmanship training focused primarily on mechanical shooting skills without adequate emphasis on the scientific principles that enable precision at extreme ranges, Chen explained. Our new curriculum addresses the knowledge gaps that limit most shooters to conventional engagement distances. The center's graduates achieved shooting performance that approached Rachel's capabilities, though few candidates demonstrated the natural ability and academic background necessary to replicate her exact achievements. The training program became a model for developing elite marksmanship capabilities across military branches. International military cooperation expanded as Allied forces sought access to training information and equipment specifications that had enabled Rachel's shooting sequence. NATO standardization agreements began incorporating extreme-range precision shooting capabilities as standard requirements for Allied Special Operations Forces. The British Ministry of Defence initiated the Enhanced Marksmanship Program, designed to develop precision shooting capabilities similar to what Rachel had demonstrated. British Special Forces received training at American facilities and access to equipment specifications that had been classified following analysis of Rachel's performance. Canada Forces established the Extreme Range Precision Shooting School, where personnel from multiple Allied nations received instruction in techniques derived from Rachel's methods. The international program became a center of excellence for developing capabilities that exceeded conventional marksmanship limitations. The Australian Defence Force created specialized units equipped and trained for precision shooting at ranges exceeding 1,500 yards. Their program incorporated equipment modifications and training techniques that Rachel's performance had proven effective under actual combat conditions. The strategic implications of Rachel's achievements influenced military doctrine development across multiple theaters of operation. Operational planners began incorporating assumptions about extreme-range precision shooting capabilities when developing threat assessments and tactical procedures. General Mark Sullivan, commanding officer of Special Operations Command, established doctrine that required identification and proper utilization of specialized capabilities within conventional military units. Sullivan's doctrine changes led to development of assessment procedures designed to identify personnel with advanced training or capabilities that weren't being utilized effectively. The new protocols prevented situations where tactical assets remained hidden due to inappropriate assignments or assumptions about personnel limitations. The technological advancement stimulated by Rachel's equipment analysis influenced development of next-generation military systems, beyond precision shooting applications. Her integration of physics, mathematics, and practical application demonstrated principles that were applicable to multiple military specialties requiring extreme precision under stress. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency initiated research programs designed to understand how exceptional individual performance could be replicated through improved training methods, equipment design, and personnel selection procedures. DARPA's Human Performance Optimization Program studied Rachel's techniques to develop training protocols that could produce similar capabilities in broader military populations.
Dr. Robert Martinez, DARPA's program manager, coordinated research that analyzed psychological, physiological, and technical factors that had enabled Rachel's performance. Understanding how exceptional individuals achieve capabilities beyond normal limitations provides insights for developing training and equipment that can extend human performance across military applications, Martinez explained. The civilian applications of research inspired by Rachel's shooting led to advancement in competitive precision shooting, law enforcement training, and academic study of human performance under extreme stress. Universities began offering courses that combined physics, mathematics, and practical application in ways that Rachel's military achievements had demonstrated. Stanford University's Department of Mechanical Engineering established a research program studying ballistics and precision shooting as applications of advanced physics and mathematics. The program attracted students interested in understanding the scientific principles that enabled performance like Rachel's shooting sequence. MIT's Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences initiated studies of psychological factors that enabled exceptional performance under extreme stress. Rachel's ability to maintain precision during life-or-death combat provided a case study for understanding human performance optimization. The legacy of Rachel's performance continued expanding as new generations of military personnel learned about the Phantom 7 and pursued training designed to develop similar capabilities. Her achievement became legendary within communities that understood the mathematical and physical principles required for precision shooting at extreme ranges under combat conditions. 20 years after the convoy operation, military historians studying the tactical evolution of precision shooting identified Rachel's performance as the watershed moment when extreme-range marksmanship transitioned from theoretical possibility to practical military capability. Her 7 shots had redefined understanding of human potential and established new standards for what could be achieved through proper training, equipment, and application of scientific principles. They had made her carry their gear until a Green Beret spotted the sniper school ring. Then she had reminded everyone that the deadliest weapons in warfare were often the ones hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment when impossible became inevitable and assumptions became casualties of precision shooting that defied every limitation except the ones imposed by people who refused to see what was really there. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.